Let's go, it's the Whitey Show. Whitey Show. Whitey Show. Whitey Show. Whitey Show. So, Killzone 3 starts off right after Killzone 2 leaves off. Right when Killzone 2 ends is when Killzone 3 begins. And once again, you're playing as Sev, the unknown, nobody cares about hero, and Rico, who is half black, half Spanish, and, you know, kind of thrown in there for minorities to relate. Now, before I get called a racist and everything, it's simply because these action-type games, similar to Gears of War, always throw in these characters, and they're really the secondary character, and they never do anything special and kind of the comic relief. And they're simply shitty characters that are just placed in there, and I find them discriminating, and I had to mention that. So, moving on, we're facing the Hellgas. The war finally seems to be tipping in our favor, and we're actually winning or making a dent in these guys. But then the Sinister Six, which are basically these collected generals for the Hellgas, who all look like old men who are going to die of fucking a heart attack any minute, are talking about defeating you and have this prototype weapon, which really all it seems like is a gravity gun. And there you are talking about killing you and destroying the good people. That's basically the story. And there's good and bad to the story. I think the pacing is good for it. I think there are better set pieces than 1 and 2. And I do think they try to go for a more personal story with Rico and Sev. But at the same time, you never, ever give a crap about any of these characters. There's no real emotional touch at all with them. And if one dies, you kind of just like, who the hell just died? And the bad guys are just so silly and dumb, and they're trying to make it, you know, hardcore and realistic, but instead it looks like the Sinister Six are plotting against you. So overall, the story is probably the weakest part of Killzone, and definitely doesn't improve much. So the graphics of Killzone 3 are pretty much amazing. The effects are simply beautiful, from the explosions to the buildings falling over. All that looks great. I also am very impressed with how many enemies can be on screen at once. They simply can throw tons of enemies, mechs, freaking robots jumping at you, and buildings falling, and nothing ever really slows down. So I have to give them credit for that. And the floating particles are once again great. If you played Resistance, they do the same type of thing. You can see the dust in the air, you can see little leaves. All that little special effects look great for the game. The only really negative thing I have to say about the graphics is that the cutscenes sometimes see lower res than everything else in the game. Like the animations come off a little awkward, or the facial models aren't as good as in-game. I found that kind of weird when the cutscenes don't look as good as the in-game. So that's probably the only negative thing I have to say. Everything else looks basically great. So the gameplay of Killzone stays largely the same as the second one. I would say there's a few things that make it different, but not much has changed. What has changed, and for the better, is there is no more weight system. You do not feel like you're jelly and you're, you know, moving back and forth, and it just feels terrible like in the second one. There's none of that, so that's definitely a big improvement. I think the shooting feels more refined, and you actually shooting an enemy instead of kind of just tapping the button and kind of, it was just awful in my opinion. Shooting just feels like you're actually hitting a target. Combat system is actually fun to use. It's simple. You basically click L1, you watch him punch a guy, and then you click L1 again, you watch him stab him in the eye or slice his neck and all that good stuff. So the melee system is actually fun and looks great. And the variation in this game, well, they try, is, you know, trying with putting stealth in or using a robot or flying around. It definitely breaks it up where you're not just doing the same old over and over again. So I think that was actually a good idea. However, saying all those positive things, we have a few negative things I have to talk about. Nothing really in this game is special. You've seen it all before, and that's a major problem when you have such a high production game. I'm expecting to be amazed by some parts, and really, there's some really cool parts or great parts. Overall, the game just feels same old, and that's a problem when the game is supposed to be one of the bigger shooters out there. And I feel sometimes you die way too quickly. It's like the enemies have some supersonic fucking shooting at you, and they just kill you in like 2 shots. It's some bullshit. And it's like Infamous on crack. And if people who played Infamous know what I'm saying. It's like that. I will also say the stealth parts of this game are terrible. Who the fuck made the stealth of this game? See, Uncharted does it right. You could stealth, but if you fuck up, oh well, just shoot motherfuckers. You're fine. In this game, you fuck up on those stealth parts. Oh no, you can't get through that. No, you are dead. And if you somehow got through that, good for you, because they killed me in like one shot. So fuck you. So overall, the stealth parts suck, but once you get past that, the rest of the game works pretty well. Just don't expect anything really new. I can't say Killzone 3 is a terrible game because it's not, and I can't say it's an amazing game because it's definitely not. The problem with Killzone that I feel is it's very run-of-the-mill shooter. This is exactly what people are talking about when they say that shooters are plaguing the gaming market, and this is the perfect example. It doesn't do anything special. It's just another shooter. It does improve from the last two, and I'm not saying it doesn't. And any fan of the first, or I don't even know if the first had any fans, but if there's some fans out there, the first or the second one, you're probably going to enjoy this one. It does improve in a lot of ways, but it just doesn't feel like it's doing anything special. Saying that, though, I do think it has a good single player, only because it's a fast pace, it's fun, and you're really never bored, as long as you don't, invest your time in that shitty story. Saying that, you also got plenty of multiplayer stuff, and Killzone 3 is a shooter, so it's mostly a competitive game. Multiplayer is the main focus. It does it better this time. I had no connection problems like I did in Killzone 2. It works well. There's no lag. Simply, all the players suck online. I've gotten number 1 both times I played, but there's plenty of stuff to unlock online, just like Call of Duty. You upgrade your rank and you feel special and you got a bigger cock than the other guy because your rank's higher. Whatever the thing is that gets you through the night, it's there in Killzone 3 as well. However, saying that, the single player is very short. Just get ready for about a 4 to 5 hour single player. That's just too short. I think that every shooter should have at least a decent size, like the Halo games, around an 8 to 12 hour campaign, mattering which Halo game you're playing, but the point is you should have around that much time because you want to get your money's worth. My main problem is that Killzone just never capitalizes on the potential that it should have. And that's a problem because you got so much money focused on this game from this company, and you're just like, why don't they hire writers to make a fucking story that I can invest my time in? Why don't I remember anybody's freaking name or care about anybody from these games? Those are the type of questions you ask yourself while you're playing Killzone. And the most important question you ask yourself is, why is the best Killzone game on the PSP? This is all questions that relate to Killzone series, and this is why I think Killzone needs a whole new, development team, or just get rid of this series. However, for any fans of 2, I know I sound like I'm just bashing the shit out of this game. I'm really not. It is a good game for shooting fans or fans of Killzone. But to me, it just shows the example that this genre seriously is fucking up other genres by making it look like this is the only genre out there. I'm sorry, Killzone. You just did not once again live up to the hype that you freaking get every time. You are better than 2, but you are definitely not one of the best shooters I played.